Great. Thanks very much for joining us. And it's great to have Cloudflare represented in the shape of Stephanie Cohen, Chief Strategy Officer for Cloudflare. You were just at the Raise Summit in Paris. You've been jetting around Europe, talking about Cloudflare's latest moves. And on that note, it's great timing, actually, because you have just recently announced some very interesting news lately around the idea of LLMs and what they're doing to the internet, aren't they? Do you want to give us a little bit of a précis of what's happening?
Well, one, it's great to be here. I've enjoyed my week in Europe. So maybe just 2 seconds on Cloudflare and then why it makes sense for us to have announced our initiative on July 1st. So for those of you who don't know, Cloudflare is a leading internet infrastructure provider. We work with millions of customers to help them build and run applications so that they're fast and secure. And we're able to do that because we're everywhere. We're in more than 335 cities in more than 125 countries. And we run our network such that every server is capable of running exactly the same software everywhere. And on that network, we have the world's largest companies, and we also have millions of free customers on our network. And so we had an exciting announcement on July 1st. So on July 1st, we changed the defaults on the Cloudflare network. So for new customers and new domains on the Cloudflare network, the default is set to block AI training crawlers. It's right there in the sign-up flow. We're blocking some at the network level, some via robots, and you can easily make a decision whether you want to leave the default on or you want to change it. On top of that, you have the ability to granularly manage individual crawlers, both crawlers individually and also whether you want them to train or search. And we launched a beta so that customers can ask to be paid per crawl. So now, on the Cloudflare network, which is now a permission-based network, you have the option to block, allow, or charge.
Well, that's quite transformational, isn't it? Because also I think we're all aware that certainly until recently, LLMs were even perhaps sometimes ignoring robot.txt blocks and just scraping the heck out of everybody's sites. And for publishers, certainly as a journalist, it's very interesting to see you guys come up with that approach because, how we pay for content or how we get that content out there is such a huge issue, isn't it? This is obviously in response to customer need. What kinds of things were people saying to you about that issue that prompted you to come up with this solution?
So more than 20% of the internet sits behind Cloudflare. And so we hear from a lot of content creators of all sizes and a lot of AI companies of all sizes. And you know this directly because of the business you're in. So you have also been in Paris and in Berlin. And you do that because you're learning in these environments and you write things with a unique perspective. But for you to have the incentive to do that, there are ads, there are subscriptions, and there's the satisfaction of someone knowing that someone's reading your content. Well, in a world where you're reading the derivative rather than the original source, that model no longer works. And so we were hearing from publishers, but also from AI companies, because in order for there to be an internet, you need unique, high-quality content. In order for AI to flourish, you need unique, high-quality content. And so we heard from all sides that something needed to change. And so we worked, we listened, we came out with this. We view this as a first step. We view this as creating the conditions for a sustainable ecosystem to develop.
Right, I see. So do you think other companies will take a similar approach? Do you think this is the beginning of other providers offering similar types of tools?
One of the great things about the announcement that Cloudflare made is if you look at our press release, we had a lot of leading content creators in that release. Some of them are Cloudflare customers, and some of them are not Cloudflare customers. And the idea was that we all agreed philosophically that a permission-based internet made sense, that putting content creators in control of knowing who's on their site, what those people are doing on their site, actually cryptographically verifying that they are who they say they are, and then the content and the website owner getting to make the decision about whether to block, allow, or charge. So this was not just about the Cloudflare network. This was about the internet.
Right, I see. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the natural progression, I think, the way things are going. Is it going to be possible for non-cloud or for anyone to get onto the private beta for this?
In order to take advantage of something like pay-per-crawl, you need to be proxying your traffic through Cloudflare. It's quite easy to sign up for Cloudflare on cloudflare.com. There is a free service available on Cloudflare, which allows you to proxy your traffic, allows you to see what AI crawlers are on your site, allows you to block them, and allows you to sign up for our beta for pay-per-crawl.
Right, so it's going to be pretty easy to get onto it. Is there any criticism that you're sort of becoming kind of an internet controller in some way, or a toll gate?
Cloudflare has a long history of being focused on an open and free internet. Our mission statement is we help build a better internet. And that shows up in every meeting. It shows up in every discussion. This is about putting website owners, content creators in control of who is on their site and what they're doing on their site.
Right. Well, obviously, we are developers here in Berlin. So how does this sort of merge with the approach that you have with developers? You have a big developer platform. So how is it baked, some of this new strategy, how is it baked in at the moment?
So if you look at the Cloudflare platform, I talked about the big network, the more than 330 locations, and cities in more than 125 countries. And on that platform, we do a lot of things. So we protect your outward-facing websites from attack and help you optimize that site. We protect your employees, your data, and your network. And then we also have a developer platform. And the amazing thing about that developer platform is it's built on the exact same network as everything else. It has security built right in. It has all of those performance features built right in. And so everything that we're doing is related to what we're doing on the developer platform. And while a lot of the announcement focused on the content creator side, the reality is that we're focused on creating an ecosystem that works for both players. If you look at the Cloudflare developer platform, it's optimized in a world of AI agents, right? We have locations everywhere. You can do data localization. It's absolutely fast. It's infinitely scalable up. It's highly efficient because we only charge you for when you're using the platform, whether that's on the CPU side or the GPU side. So for us, this is about enabling an AI ecosystem. We're trying to enable innovation in the AI ecosystem.
Right. So that's all been thought of in terms of certainly on the developer side. I know that you also introduced something called WebBotOff, is that right? For the cryptographic verification of bots. Was this in response to the AI agents?
So we made that announcement a couple of weeks ago, and it's certainly a valuable piece of what we announced, because if you think about who's crawling your site, they can announce their IPs, but we've noticed that there's some comments that people are not obeying robots. And we find actually what's really going on is sometimes there are typos in robots, and sometimes someone is impersonating a different bot. So it's not the bot that you think it is. And so while telegraphing your IPs is important, cryptographically verifying your IPs means not only do you announce who you are, but we know you are who you say you are. And so WebBotOff helps in the initiative that we're talking about, and we're encouraging good bots on the internet to cryptographically verify who they are. But it's also perfectly suited for a world of AI agents. So in a world where you're going to send an agent out to do something on your behalf, you want to make sure that that's the actual agent that you sent out. And not only do you want to make sure that your agent's the right agent, but the person receiving that message wants to feel and be certain that it is that agent. So while that announcement was certainly helpful for what we did on July 1st, it's absolutely critical to what we're doing around agents.
The whole agent space is very relatively new, isn't it, in some ways? Perhaps not new to everybody here, but certainly new to a lot of the businesses out there in the world. What are your thinking? What's your thinking at Cloudflare about that sort of agentic future that we're gradually sort of entering?
Yeah, we're quite excited about the agentic future. A couple of things. If you think about the first part of the conversation and the internet at large, the internet today is generally optimized for humans. And there are a lot of bots already on the internet, but it's growing at a very high rate in terms of the number of bots on the internet. And the internet needs to be optimized for not just humans, but machines. So one of the things related to the announcement, we are working to help make crawlers and ultimately agents more efficient. Meaning, if you're a crawler that's trying to find new information on the internet, because we see the internet, because we're caching so much of the internet, we know if that information is new. We, over time, can have views on quality of that information. So there are a bunch of things that we can do to make the internet not just optimized for humans, but also optimized for machines. Agents in general, I think is this amazing place of so much innovation. There are so many amazing companies that are building incredible things. There are also companies that have been around for a really long time, and they want to make sure that their applications are available to agents. So one of the other things we introduced was our remote MCP. You want to host your MCP on Cloudflare so that you know that you can be accessible to all of the amazing innovation that's getting built through companies at places like this. And then we also announced an agent SDK because you don't want to have to keep doing the same things over and over and over again as you build your agents. We want to make sure that you can focus on the job to be done, and we can focus on everything that Cloudflare is good at. Scalability, global, making sure that things like memory and logging and processes that happen over and over again are easy for you. So we're really excited about how we can really enable this world.
That aspect of being able to verify an agent dovetails well with the issue of cybersecurity as well, doesn't it? And that's a massive part of what you guys do, especially in terms of like protecting websites from DDoS attacks and stuff like that. And I know that I know your CEO, Matthew, who's quite vociferous about nation states going after websites and taking them down and things like that. What's going on? Give us an update maybe a little bit on some of the cyber stuff you guys are working on, because I'm sure a lot of people here would be very interested to know.
Yeah, the world is getting ever more dangerous. I think it feels like every week, it may not be exactly every week, where we've stopped the world's largest DDoS attack. I think we're at 7.5 terabytes per second, and the 7.5 trillion terabytes per second in the last attack that we stopped. And so, this is why Cloudflare was founded. Cloudflare was founded because everyone has a right to be on the internet and free from attack. And so we don't see that stopping. I mentioned earlier that we see bot traffic on the internet only growing. Some of that is good bots, some of that is bad bots, some of that is somewhere in between, depending on who you are. But it's increasingly more and more important that sites know who's on their sites and have the ability to block. And so we're seeing demand for that only grow. AI increases the importance of that because there's now bots on your site that are trying to do human tasks. So knowing the difference between a good bot and a bad bot is really important. And then across industries, if you think about what's going on in various industries, Cloudflare, because of the free network inside of Cloudflare, because of the breadth of the global network, we see the entire internet. We see it many times a day. So we have enormous access to information about what's going on the internet. We tend to find that bad actors will try to test their product in small corners of the internet. And because we're not just serving large corporations, but we're serving people all the way down to the individual blogger, we see those bad actors before they go after a really large company. And so we're seeing the pace of that only increase. We're seeing the importance of that only increase. And so everything that we're doing around, whether it's the content creator space, whether it's the AI space, whether it's agents in particular, all of that is embedded with and joined with everything that we do in cybersecurity, because it's only getting more important.
Yeah, that whole area will continue to be deeply important. Going back to the LLM aspect that we were talking about earlier, I know that when you sort of previewed the announcement Matthew Prince, the CEO, completed the announcement at Cannes Lion a few weeks ago, he was talking about sort of the drastic drop-off in web traffic, of search traffic, rather, that was sending traffic to websites, especially content creation websites and journalism, whatever it is. And the sheer amount of usage of AI platforms now at the user end, you know, the retail, shall we say, retail customer, or the average person end. What's your thinking about that? Because ultimately, we're changing how we interact with the web, don't we? In fact, now, obviously, we saw that OpenAI will be producing its own web browser. Oddly enough, even though it's still very much in the agent space. What's some of your future thinking? You're strategy officer, are you not? So you must be strategically thinking about how we interact with the web just as ordinary people, moving away from this sort of, sit there, search, open a bunch of tabs, et cetera, which we've all been doing for years. All of a sudden, it's just coming to us in a pre-packaged form. What's sort of your thinking about that?
So I left my crystal ball back in the United States, but I certainly have lots of thinking about what's going to happen. In many ways, I think this is an era for people that thrive on innovation and thrive in change, because I don't think what it looks like today is not going to be what it looks like tomorrow. I'll give you an example. So I sit at my computer and I type bullets out for the email that I'm going to send to you. AI turns that into an email, you get it, and AI turns that back into bullet points, so you can just get the main points for me. And there's certain things that are going on today that just don't make sense, and I think those will collapse. However, I think there's real desire for people to have human-to-human interaction. I mean, look at this conference, right? It's a conference about AI, it's a conference about agents, yet it's about humans interacting and humans doing business. And so whether that is a world where there is a human-optimized internet and a machine-optimized internet, and how those two things interact, I think we'll figure out what that looks like going forward. But the idea that people want to experience human beings directly, relationships directly, that they want to read and see and touch and feel human-generated content, I think that that's something that's innate to humans, and it's why we're so focused on this, because if there's no incentive for people to create that will not exist anymore. And I think there's a real desire for that. I think it makes the world better, I think it makes the internet better, and I think it makes AI better.
Well, it's clear that you guys are very much thinking about that, obviously, because you've brought in this new LLM blocking facility for developers to implement. And we saw recently that YouTube announced that it wasn't going to monetize AI content anymore. Somehow they're going to have to verify that whatever you see on your screen has been made by an actual human being rather than one of the image generation platforms. What other kinds of identity verification do you think is going to be important? I know that Cloudflare, you go to websites, often says, blocks you right there and goes, click this box to make sure you're a human. Obviously, we're all familiar with that. Well, do you see other kinds of verification systems coming in, facial recognition or whatever?
So we participate in the C2PA, which is about content authenticity, and it's this idea of knowing, for example, where a picture was taken and if it has been adjusted at all. And so we do think there will be this desire for people to understand, where did this originate and how has it changed from its original form? And I think a lot of that comes from this desire to know that you're looking at something that's actually real. And so there'll be a bunch of ways that technology can help make that automatic. We can embed that in things like the Cloudflare network, and so that while you're viewing things, you don't have to do a bunch of extra steps to confirm that something that's been created has been created by a human and it hasn't been altered from its original form. Right,
yeah, well, it's gonna be tough out there for a while until a lot of this stuff settles down. There's also the issue of of how you guys work with the technology community. I know that your founders are actually very deeply technical themselves, and they've actually, one of the things I think has been impressive about the company over the years is how technical it has been, how engaged it's been with the technology community. You know, hiring some of the original people behind TCP/IP protocol, for instance, in the early days. What can we expect, and what sort of kinds of the best ways for developers to interact with Cloudflare at the moment and going forward?
Yeah, we love developers. Cloudflare is made up of developers. We're 5,000 people, not all of them in R&D, but many of them are developers themselves. Many people come to Cloudflare, whether as employees or customers, because they've been using the Cloudflare platform. And so work with us, experiment with us. We have free capabilities. Actually, the vast majority of the Cloudflare products are available in the free tier. We want people to be building directly on Cloudflare. We certainly have a booth here where we want to interact with people. Most of us are directly available on social media. We'll respond to you directly. We want to hear what you want to build. Like our ability, for example, for something like MCP, our ability to react to that immediately and get something out there that works for large companies, works for individual developers, is what you can expect to see from Cloudflare. So tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, tell us what you want us to build. I mean, the reality is the way that we want developers to think about Cloudflare is that those 335 cities and 125 countries, that's your network. Tell us how you want to use that network so that we can help you build what you want to build.
And the company itself has got quite a big European footprint. I know that you've got a big facility in Lisbon, for instance. What's going on in terms of hiring and expansion and stuff like that?
Yeah, so Cloudflare is growing quite rapidly. We're hiring across the world, but we certainly have large locations in London and Lisbon in particular. And so, as I'm headed to London right after this. On the same flight as you. So we're really excited about the ability for us to expand our employee base globally. We recently opened a technology hub in Bangalore, where I know there'll be a WeAreDeveloper conference coming up, and so we're quite excited also about our expansion in that location. Great.
And so sort of wrapping up, you've had the LLM announcements, you've had the bot announcements, is there anything else we should be keeping our ear to the ground for from Cloudflare in the near future? Should we see sorts of more announcements in the autumn?
You're going to see countless announcements from Cloudflare all the time. For those of you who work with us, you know that some people joke that we're a blogging company that built a network so that we would have something to blog about. So there's constantly new stuff on our blog. On top of that, we celebrate birthday week. It's one of the coolest things that we do at Cloudflare, where every year we celebrate our birthday, where we give things back to the internet. So certainly look for what we're going to do there. And agents.cloudflare.com is constantly being updated. There's so many exciting things there. Hopefully you'll find great things for you so you can help build your businesses on that. But also, as I said, we would love your feedback. We want to know what you want to see more of.
And anyone can sign up for this new private beta about controlling LLMs interacting with sites.
Cloudflare.com.
Right. Well, there you go. Mm-hmm. Well, that's been a great exposition about what you guys are doing, and I think it's very exciting, especially speaking as a content producer myself, that somebody's actually thinking about this and how we're going to allow people to monetize what they do going forward, especially human beings, which I think is important. But Stephanie Cohen, Chief Strategy Officer for Cloudflare, thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.
We Are Developers. Mm-hmm. Thanks very much, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Thank you.
Right. No worries.